Hi, everyone. I am Ginny Dietrich. I'm the creator of the Peso model. I also own a PR firm called Arment Dietrich. And I started a blog called Spin Sucks that turned into a book, that turned into a podcast, that turned into a professional development site. And now we offer all sorts of online courses for communicators to learn how to evolve their careers, especially beyond media relations, which is a good amount of what most communicators do in today's world. Although it's time to change that. And we teach them how to measure things too. So I was kindly asked some questions that I thought it'd be more fun to answer via video versus email. So the first one is, are there any interesting facts that you'd like to share with me and my classmates? Interesting facts. Let's see. I'm a cyclist. I race bicycles. I've done that for about a decade. Before my small child arrived, I was pretty good. I won some races. And then I took a little bit of a hiatus and started to get back into it pre-pandemic, right before the pandemic hit, and had to go back and sign on my trainer. So I haven't raced actually since 2019. I would like to think I'm still good, but who knows? I guess we'll see next summer, I hope. That's, I guess, one interesting fact. I feel like I'm on the spot. I have no interesting facts about myself. I'm sure there's something somewhere. Trying to think. I don't like broccoli. Broccoli's disgusting. Yeah, that's it. I'm sure as soon as I hit stop on this, I'll think of something else that's at least funny, if not interesting. What advice do you have for students getting ready to enter the workforce of public relations or communications? Okay. Don't be afraid to connect with the companies that you want to work for or at on social media. You need to learn as much about them as they're going to learn about you. And you need to do that through every avenue that you can, through social media, through their content. If they have videos on YouTube, watch those, listen to podcasts, do whatever you can to understand what the company is like, who you'll be working for and with, and what the executive team is like, because in many cases you won't even meet the executive team depending on where you're going to work. So you want to kind of get to know them. And most companies have thought leadership programs for their executive team, so you can get to know them. Don't be afraid to join communities. Don't be afraid to comment on content or share content or respond to a tweet or respond to a Facebook or a LinkedIn post, like something on Instagram. Like, be engaging and make sure that they know your name, so that by the time you interview for a job, they at least know your name, if not a little bit about you. Do that. When you interview, ask questions. So what I always advise is you have at least 10 questions that you ask, and you're going to go through multiple interviews in with every organization. So you may interview with HR, and then you may interview with the team that you'd be working with, and then you may go back to HR, and then you may interview with a supervisor. Like, you will have multiple interviews. It's okay if you ask the same questions in every interview, because you might get different responses, and that's fine. You want to better understand how the whole organization works. And so if you've asked all your questions in the first interview, in your second interview, when they say, what questions do you have? Don't say, I've already had them answered. Just ask the same questions, because like I said, you'll get different answers. You'll get different contexts. You'll get different responses based on who it is you're talking to. One of my massive pet peeves is when somebody finally sits down with me, and I'm always the last interview, and I say, what questions do you have of me? And they go, I'm good. And I'm like, really? You have the owner of the company sitting in front of you, and you don't have a single question for me? Hate that. I don't care if you've asked the same question 17 times, ask it again. So I would say those are the two big things. Engage on social, be prepared to ask questions. If you could share a story of what changes you've seen that make the public relations field stronger. This is going to age me, but when I started my career in PR, my job as an assistant account executive was to stand at the copier and make copies, excuse me, of all of the media clips, all the media hits, that stories we had placed. And we worked on big, huge clients with multi-million-dollar budgets. We had media stories out the wazoo. It was my full-time job. It sucked. So I would stand there and I had to make color copies. And back then, the color copier would go red, yellow, blue, black, and then it would do a final to bring it all together, and then it would pump the paper out. Now listen, I'm not that old, but that is how it worked back then, 20 years ago. And so as I stood there waiting for the 5 times for it to go through, I would read the next story, and then I'd put that down, and then I would collate them and put them in dividers and everything. That's how I started my career. So things have changed. We don't have to make copies of clips anymore. We can do it all online. You know, we used to have what was called the Bacon's books. They were like this thick and they were green and they had all the reporters in them. And so you would open up, you'd be like, okay, I'm looking for the New York Times. You'd open up the N book, you look up the New York Times, and then you'd go through to find the food reporter or whoever it is you were looking for. And then you would pick up the phone and you would call and say to the food reporter, hey, I'm pitching Ocean Spray, blah, 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 blah. So that has changed. You don't have to do that anymore. I did a ton of traveling in my early career, which was amazing. But you had to subscribe to all the magazines and newspapers that you were pitching on behalf of your clients. And so I would come back from traveling and I would have stacks of newspapers and magazines just sitting on my desk, like to the point that you couldn't keep up. Don't have to do that anymore, which is amazing. You can just go online and look at what somebody's writing about before you call them or email them or whatever, however you tweet them or however you're pitching them. That's amazing. But I would say the biggest thing that has changed is that we can measure our work. And when I started my career, PRSA had just launched the media impressions and advertising equivalency way of measuring things, and it was revolutionary. Like the fact that we could put a number to our work was phenomenal. Today, we know it's baloney, and that if you measure anything by impressions and advertising equivalency, you should not be doing communications for a job in your career. But now we can look at things from website traffic and social media followers all the way through to attribution and sales. And I think that's probably the biggest change. So there you go. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person. Evening classes are challenging because I have small ones and it's bath time and bedtime and all the chaos that comes with that. So I apologize that I can't be there in person, but hope to see you soon. Bye.